Hello everyone, welcome back to a new video. Today I am so excited to be sharing with you all some Christmas book recommendations. I'm calling it the ultimate Christmas book list. I did film a similar video last year and I will have that linked below. I tried not to repeat any books from that video, but there are three that I just could not mention in this video. So I do have 3 repeats, but if you are interested in seeing that video, it will be linked below. I'm also aware that many of you have not yet celebrated Thanksgiving, but I love Christmas so much, and in Canada, we celebrated Thanksgiving a month ago, and I'm just ready for all the Christmas things. So I was ready to film this video and upload it, and this way it also gives you all sufficient time to compile your TBRs or pile of possibilities. Even if you are a mood reader like myself, hopefully there will be some ideas for you throughout this video. I do want to quickly mention before going over the Christmas books that on November 17th, the giveaway for my 2-year booktube anniversary will be closing. So if you are interested in submitting an entry, I guess, for the giveaway, just head over to the community tab and leave a comment on the post that I had posted there. And I will be sharing the 2 winners for the giveaway November 24th, as well as doing a Q&A. All that information's on the community tab. Just wanted to mention it if you are interested. But without further ado, let's go ahead and go over my ultimate Christmas book list. And I will start off with the 3 books that I am repeating from last year's list. The first one here is my favorite classic Christmas story currently, and that is The Nutcracker by E.T.A. Hoffmann. And this book just blew me away last Christmas when I read it. It isn't for everyone, but I think with my love of the Nutcracker ballet, I just fell in love with the source material, and I'm so glad I read it. I'm so in love with this story, and I really enjoyed this translation as well. I'm just going to read the quick little summary here, as I do want to be brief with each book. It says, "The gift of a handsomely decorated nutcracker from a mysterious uncle sets the stage for a Christmas Eve like no other for the little girl Marie. That night, Marie's extraordinary present comes to life, defends her from the taunting Mouse King, and whisks her off to the kingdom of dolls. The inspiration for the classic ballet, E.T.A. Hoffmann's irresistible tale of magic and childhood adventure continues to captivate readers of all ages." I just couldn't get enough of the Nutcracker, the sugar plums, the fairies, just all the Christmas vibes that this story encapsulates. It is just timeless and I'm obsessed. Would highly recommend for the Christmas season. I also feel like it is not a Christmas book recommendations video without mentioning A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, the classic story of Ebenezer Scrooge, a miser who just hates Christmas, hates everything, hates everyone. But on Christmas Eve, we have ghosts from Christmas past, present, and future that take Scrooge on a bit of a journey, and his life kind of changes in the process. So a classic story, and in my opinion, a must read. And the last repeat from last year's video is Letters from Father Christmas by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is a collection of letters that Tolkien wrote to his children over the many years, and basically he pretended to be Father Christmas. He pretended to be Santa and wrote his kids letters with the most precious stories. Basically every December he would send a letter from the North Pole to his kids, and I just think this was the most precious thing. This edition includes the original letters that Tolkien wrote, and they are in color, and the drawings that he drew as well, plus the text beside the pictures as well, just so it's easier to read. And I think that this is one of those books that would be appealing to children, adults, people of all ages. It is so precious and evokes such nostalgia, and I just cannot get enough of this book. It's something I definitely see myself rereading over the years and reading to my future children as well. It is precious. All right, so we have 14 more books to get through. I'll try to be brief, and just to save myself trying to explain too much of the plot, I will have the Goodreads links also listed below in the description box if you would like to look into these books a little more. But this next one was a favorite of last December. I absolutely fell in love with this story. It is one of my favorite books, one of my favorite Christmas stories, and that is A Holiday by Gaslight by Mimi Matthews. This story is quite reminiscent of North and South, only it is a novella, so none of the depth that North and South has by any means. But in terms of the romantic elements and the cross-class romance and all of that. It definitely does give off North and South vibes as well as the setting. So it is a second chance romance, and it's also pitched as a courtship of convenience. So kind of a mix of those two, but such a good story, such a good Christmas novella. I would also recommend A Texas Christmas Carol by Karen Whittemire, and this one is basically sort of a retelling of A Christmas Carol by Dickens, but set in Texas in the 1800s, and it is just such a fun story. I believe this is a novella as well. I do have it on Kindle, so I'm not 100% on the exact length, but it was on the shorter side. It's got some faith elements, it has some humor, and it's just an all-around very fun story. Next up is Silent Night, and this is a collection of short stories that are set around the Christmas season. And some of these stories were definitely big hits for me, some of them not so much, but all in all, I would recommend this collection of short stories. If you are looking for a short story collection, just something to dip in and out of, there are definitely some gems in this collection. And just if you're interested, I will list off the ones that I personally enjoyed the most out of the collection. The 6 that I really liked were The Blue Carbuncle by Arthur Conan Doyle, so it is Sherlock. Parlor Tricks by Ralph Plummer. This one was very ridiculous, but very fun. The Flying Stars by G.K. Chesterton. This one is a Father Brown story, and I've heard really good things about Father Brown stories in general, and this is the only story that I've read with this character, so I'm definitely curious to read more G.K. Chesterton. Then we have Waxworks by Ethelina White, and this one kind of had to do with like a haunted wax gallery, so it was very interesting. We have The Necklace of Pearls by Dorothy L. Sayers, and that was my introduction to Peter Wimsey, and I definitely want to read more. And then Cambric Tea by Marjorie Bowen, and this was very melodramatic and fun. And speaking of mysteries, I would also recommend Mistletoe and Murder by Carla Dunn. Out of the Daisy Dalrymple books that I have read, this one is my favorite. It's probably because Christmas is my favorite thing in the world. I would recommend reading this one. It is such a good one, and I don't think you have to read the previous books to enjoy it. But this one is set in the 1920s, and we have Daisy, who is married to a detective named Alec, and they have to spend Christmas in this ancestral estate that they were invited to, and it's full of lore and ghost stories and all of that. There are secret passageways and rumored hidden treasure, and the family that owns this place and the extended family, no one gets along, and it's very dramatic. And then one of the Christmas guests is found murdered, and Daisy and her husband are on the hunt for the suspect, and it is quite the fun story. And another mystery that I read last year and very much enjoyed is The 12 Sleighs of Christmas by Jaclyn Frost. And Jaclyn Frost is actually a pen name for Julie Ann Lindsay, who wrote Apple Cider Sleighing, and that's one of my favorite cozy mysteries of all time. And this one was also very fun. And we have this woman named Holly who is very hurt because her fiance canceled their wedding just before Christmas, and so she returns to the home that she grew up in, and it is set in Maine. So we have all the New England charm around the Christmas season, and the president of the Mistletoe Historical Society is found dead, and so Holly, our main character, tries to figure out what happened. The murder weapon was actually a wooden stake that is used in Holly's family tree farm, and so her family's kind of involved in the mystery, and it's just a very fun story. Perfect if you love Christmas and cozy mysteries. I also wanted to recommend Christmas at Carnton by Tamara Alexander, and in this one we have a woman, and it is during the time of the Civil War in America. I believe it's set in Tennessee, and this woman is widowed and she has a young son, and this woman is about to be evicted from her home as well, and so she basically has nowhere to turn to, and she ends up finding a position at Carnton House, which was owned by a very prestigious family during this time, and there she meets a wounded soldier, and the story is just such a beautiful story, and it packs such a punch for it being such a short one. It is a novella. It is considered book like 0.5 in the Carnton series. I have read book 1, and you can read this one just as a standalone. I think for a novella, this packed such a punch. It is so heartwarming, and it's one that I would definitely recommend if you do like historical fiction and are just looking for something quick, and a book that doesn't require too much of a commitment, but one that will definitely leave you feeling many emotions. I wanted to mention a book that I'm currently reading and enjoying, and that is 12 Days at Bleakly Manor by Michelle Greep. This one is an interesting one. It is set during the Victorian era, around Christmas time, and it starts on the first day of Christmas, on Christmas basically, on Christmas Eve I think it is. And we have this group of characters, all very unique, that are basically invited to this manor. and they don't know why. We don't know who invited them as the reader at the beginning. We have no idea. We're just as clueless as the characters. A couple of the characters do seem to have a connection, but it's not indicative of why they were called to this place. And basically this group are called together and they all have these tasks that they have to accomplish throughout the 12 days of Christmas. And I believe at the end it'll be revealed why they were called there, but it's very, very unique. Just a very enjoyable book that I've been having a great time reading over the past week. So I did want to mention that one as well. I also have to mention Catching Christmas by Terry Blackstock. This one was a very, very beautiful story that I read last year, and I felt so touched by it, truly, truly touched. I think it's because this one dealt with dementia, and it's just those types of topics really do get to me, and it was just a beautiful story. So we have Sydney, who is a lawyer, and she's really struggling in her job, and she's also struggling because her grandmother does have dementia and seems to be declining, and Sydney is trying to balance her job and caring for her grandma. And this cab driver named Finn, he ends up driving Sydney's grandmother, I think it was to an appointment, and he just keeps getting called back and somehow winds up driving her all over town. And he definitely gives off Luke vibes from Gilmore Girls. He's just a huge grump. He definitely learns a lot from spending time with Sydney's grandmother, and just the whole story. It is so, so heartwarming. I don't want to say much else, but a very, very beautiful story. Also a quick read as well. A lot of the books I'm mentioning, they aren't very long, so they're just great reads to read in a few nights during the Christmas season, and this is another one I would definitely recommend. Another one that I found very fun, and I read it last year, is Santa, My Life and Times, an illustrated autobiography, and this one was illustrated by Bill. Don't know how to say his last name, but there you have it. And this one was just weird, but in a good way. Like, I thought it was very, very unique. The illustration style was very unique. I think it'll appeal to certain people. And I found myself enjoying it, and I thought it was interesting, but I think I had more fun with the story. And then the illustration style, it did seem to suit the story. It's just a silly little autobiography about Santa, as if he is telling us his story, his origin story. And it does start when he is a child here. You can see that. I just thought it was fun, and I think this is a unique one. So if you are looking for something more unique, this is a good one for sure. This next one is actually a nonfiction, and I don't typically read nonfiction, but I had to mention it. It is such a beautiful, beautiful book. A very, very short one, but it is an Advent devotional, and that is The Dawn of Redeeming Grace by Sinclair B. Ferguson. And this one, it just spoke to me in such a beautiful way, and I did listen to it on audio, so he narrated it, the author narrated it, and I just felt like I was being encouraged every single time I listened to it. And it was my first time doing anything Advent related, and I just found it to be very encouraging, and I appreciated how thought-provoking each day's devotional was. It honestly was not very, very deep. It was just encouraging, and the author tied bits of the chapter in Matthew that talks about Jesus' birth with our day-to-day walk, and it was just a very, very good Advent devotional. In my opinion, if you do observe Advent and you're looking for something that isn't too theological, this might be a good one. We also have some children's stories. Here we have Noel Streetfeild's Christmas Stories. I really like what it says on the back, so I'll just read what it says here. From the Times, it says, "Expect escapism and writerly ease as Noel Streetfeild recounts stories of auditions on stage, adventures on ice, and holiday mayhem. They're thrilling reads." And then the summary just says, "Curl up with this sparkling collection of festive stories by one of the most beloved writers in children's literature. Charming, heartwarming, and funny, these tales will bring joy to readers of all ages." I wholeheartedly agree, would highly recommend this collection of stories as well. Next up is The Mistletoe Countess by Pepper Basham. This is a very fun historical fiction. It's set, I think, around the turn of the century, and it's just a very fun story with a bit of a mystery, and I had a really great time with it. So I'll just read the back. It says, "Mistletoe is beautiful and dangerous, much like the woman from Frederick Percy's past. So when he turns over a new leaf and arranges to marry for his estate instead of his heart, he never expects the wrong bride to be the right choice. Gracelyn Ferguson never planned to take her elder sister's place as a Christmas bride, but when she's thrust into the role, she will trust in her faithful novels and overactive imagination to help her not only win Frederick's heart, but also solve the murder mystery of Havensbrook Hall before her fairy tale future is ruined. Will the magic of Christmas bring the newlyweds closer together, or will the ghosts of the past lead them into a destructive discovery from which not even a Dickens-style Christmas can save them? Very fun historical Christmas story, would highly recommend. We have 2 more books to go over. This next one is The Last Christmas in Paris by Hazel Gaynor and Heather Webb. This became one of my favorite World War stories of all time. It is set during World War I, and it is epistolary as well, which I love. I know epistolary novels aren't for everyone, but this one has such a way of making the plot so propulsive and the character development so well done while being epistolary, and I just fell in love. We have this elderly gentleman who travels to Paris, and he has this packet of letters that he starts to read, and along with him, we start to read them as well. And we're transported back to 1914 as he is waving goodbye to this girl named Evie. And so Tom and Evie's brother end up going to war. They go to fight, and Evie is left behind in England. And so over the years, we just get to see how their stories develop, and we get a lot of letters between Evie and Tom, a lot of letters between her and her brother, and I just could not get enough. I couldn't get enough. This book made me tear up. It captured my heart. I am obsessed. I recommend this to everyone. Anyone who loves historical fiction, anyone who loves World War I stories, even if you don't love World War I stories, even if you tolerate them, this book is just so good. The beginning of the novel starts off in the 60s when Tom is much older, and when he has this packet of letters, he's in Paris, and he goes for a very specific reason to Paris, and he has one last letter that he needs to open. And oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. It's so good. I could gush about it all day. I need to reread it so bad, but highly, highly recommend. Such an amazing Christmas book. So I started the video off by recommending The Nutcracker by E.T.A. Hoffmann. So last but not least, I have to recommend The Enchanted Sonata by Heather Dixon Walwork. This one is a retelling of the Nutcracker story, but mainly focusing on music, and that has to do more with the villain of the story, and it is just perfection. And I have to read the back. It says, "What makes music magic? Clara Stahlbaum has her future perfectly planned, marry the handsome pianist, Johann Kohler, and settle down to a life full of music. But all of that changes when Clara receives a mysterious and magical Nutcracker. Whisked away to his world, an enchanted empire of beautiful palaces, fickle fairies, enormous rats, and a prince, Clara must face a magician who uses music as magic and the future she thought she wanted. The Enchanted Sonata, a retelling of the Nutcracker ballet with a dash of the Pied Piper, will captivate readers of all ages." It sure captivated me, so much so that when I finished it, I wanted to restart it right away. While reading this, I listened to the Nutcracker Suite by Tchaikovsky, and it was the best experience ever. When I say I recommend this, I think I recommend this more than any other book in this list for Christmas time. Just personally, I'm obsessed. And I think it's just because of how obsessed I am with the Nutcracker. I have a problem. I'm just obsessed, absolutely obsessed. But that is the last book on this list. And that is my ultimate Christmas book recommendations list for 2023. Hopefully next year I will have another list with many more recommendations, as I hope to read as many wonderful Christmas books this year as I can. I'm not sure yet if I will have a Christmas TBR video, just because I am a mood reader, and even though I do have a list of books I'm interested in, it's going to be such a busy next couple of months. So we shall see if I have time to film it. If anything, I might just do a bit of a YouTube Shorts video to just kind of show what I'm interested in reading. But that's it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you found some recommendations that sound interesting to you, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful November and December full of wonderful books. I hope you all find some amazing reads, some new favorites, and like I said, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next one. Bye!